Alger Haydn, I command you, kiss me. I grabbed the handsome young man in front of me by the collar, forcing him to bow his head. Alger Haydn's good-looking eyes widened slightly. The next second, he looked away, and there was a slight flush at the base of his ears. Ahem, we're on the street right now, so it's not good. I narrowed my eyes and warned him. Are you trying to disobey me? Don't make me say it a second time. Alger Haydn sighed. In desperation, he reached out and put his arm around my waist, then lowered his head, held my face with one hand, and kissed me gently on the lips. Bang! The sound of glass falling to the ground rang in my ears. I opened my eyes and saw a girl looking at me, and Alger Haydn with a pale face. Her name is Prima Houseman, and she is a girl who grew up with Alger Haydn, and the person Alger Haydn has always had a crush. I deliberately let her see this. That's why I chose to let Alger Haydn kiss me not far from Prima Houseman's shop. The purpose, of course, is to declare sovereignty and tell her that Alger Haydn is mine. Alger Haydn didn't hear Prima Houseman's movements. To provoke Prima Houseman, I put my arms around Alger Haydn's neck and continued to deepen the kiss. Alger Haydn is immersive. He put his arms around my waist so hard that the kissing was like he was going to eat me whole. I cast a contemptuous look at Prima Houseman, meaning, do you want to keep watching? Prima Houseman completely broke down and ran away. I'll smile, but at this moment, I suddenly felt a sharp pain in my brain. A huge stream of content was pouring into my head. It turns out that the world I live in now is a novel. Prima Houseman is the heroine, and Alger Haydn is the second infatuated male protagonist, who loves the heroine. And I, on the other hand, am the vicious female partner who forcibly took Alger Haydn, and destroyed his relationship with the heroine. In the original book, it is said that it is precisely because of my frequent show of affection in front of Prima Houseman that Prima Houseman is completely dead to Alger Haydn. Alger Haydn didn't actually like me. He always liked Prima Houseman. He was with me only because I, a vicious woman, threatened him with my status as the eldest lady of the Burns family. As a last resort, he agreed to be my boyfriend. But Prima Houseman didn't know any of that. She only thought that the person she had been secretly crushing for many years had fallen in love with someone else, and she was extremely sad and decided to let go. At this time, the male protagonist appeared. He kept comforting the lovelorn Prima Houseman, and the hearts of the two slowly approached. The male protagonist confessed to Prima Houseman. The day the two were officially together, Alger Haydn is suddenly found by the Ben family, a top wealthy family who has lived abroad for many years. It turned out that he was the youngest son of the head of the Ben family, who was lost in the early years. Alger Haydn, who had the background bonus, finally bravely said no to me. After all, although the Burns family is also a wealthy family, it is not as good as the Ben family at all. He simply broke up with me, and then tried to get Prima Houseman back and tell her what he wanted. But at this time, Prima Houseman has completely liked the male protagonist, so it is naturally impossible to accept him. The two missed it. Alger Haydn was so sad that he blamed me for all the faults. He thinks that if it weren't for me, then the people who are happily together now must be him and Prima Houseman. Later, he launched a series of revenge on me. Not only did they bankrupt my family and destroy my family, but they also chained me up and imprisoned me in the dark basement and tortured me every day. An image popped into my mind. Dimly lit basement. Alger Haydn stared at me fiercely. His warm palms were clutching my neck, tightening. The feeling of suffocation is getting stronger. I could feel the blood pouring down my face. He put it to my ear, and gritted his teeth in an eerie tone. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have Miss Prima Houseman. Rebecca Burns, you don't want to escape from my palm for the rest of your life. I'll torture you to death little by little. My eyes widened, subconsciously pushed away Alger Haydn, who was still kissing me. The picture in my head is too real. It was so real that it made me feel like my neck had been pinched. The kiss was abruptly interrupted, and Alger Haydn opened his eyes, which were clearly already emotional. He looked at me with a puzzled look on his face, and asked with a slight gasp, "What's wrong? Your kissing skills are so bad. You can't kiss at all." "I don't want to kiss you anymore." After saying this, I turned around in a panic and left. When I got home, it took a long time for me to calm down my fear. I consoled myself not to be afraid. Now, what I have to do is make sure that what I have in my head is really true. I followed my memory and opened my browser to search for photos of the current head of the Ben family. When I got to see the old version of Alger Haydn's face, my eyes went black and I almost fainted. It's true, all the things that popped into my head were real. If I continue to force Alger Haydn to be with me, then I am really going to end up in a very miserable end. With that in mind, I quickly pulled out my phone and sent a message to Alger Haydn. Alger Haydn, your kissing skills are so bad. I don't want a boyfriend with such bad kissing skills. So let's break up. After sending this message, I decisively blocked him and deleted him. Although I really like him, it is not enough to compare with my family company and my personal safety. The sadness is only temporary. There is one less Alger Haydn, and there are thousands of Alger Haydn waiting for me to pick. The next time I saw Alger Haydn was at my house. I used to take him home to play, so the housekeeper didn't stop him, but let him in directly. As soon as I pushed open the door after a nap, I bumped into a hard chest. I looked up, my eyes widening uncontrollably. Before I could finish speaking, Alger Haydn took my face and kissed me fiercely on the lips. He pried my teeth open and frantically invaded the city like a robber in my lips. The warm, sticky sound of kissing was everywhere. It seems to feel like I'm a little out of breath. Alger Haydn gradually slowed down his movements, took my lips in his mouth, and kissed softly. I felt numb and my head was dizzy, so much so that later, I gave up my resistance, and even began to kiss him back unconsciously, uncontrollably limp in the legs. My body couldn't stop sliding. Just as I was about to fall to the ground, Alger Haydn grabbed me by the waist just in time. He let go of my pitiful lips, that had been ravaged by him. He raised his hand and rubbed the tip of his thumb against my red and swollen lips. I asked with a dark look in my eyes, "Is my kissing skill good enough now?" I leaned into the crook of his arm, teary and panting. Seeing that I didn't speak, he first gently kissed away the tears from the corners of my eyes. Then he put it in my ear, and continued in a low tone, "During this time, I've also learned some other techniques. Baby, do you want to try it?" I said, and I felt a large fiery palm poke through the hem of my pajamas. I snapped back to my senses, and quickly pushed him away. "I don't want to." "Why?" Alger Haydn frowned and looked at me with a puzzled expression. "Rebecca Burns, my kissing skills have improved, so I don't agree to break up." I was determined to break up with him. "So," I said, "your kissing skills haven't improved at all. It's still as bad as before." Alger Haydn retorted solemnly, "But you were kissed by me just now." I blushed and replied to him in shame, That's because I'm so tired. That's why my legs are weak. Anyway, your kissing skills haven't improved, Rebecca Burns. That's why you're breaking up with me. It's not because of my poor kissing skills." Alger Haydn debunked me bluntly. I crossed my waist and looked at him unconvinced. "Yes, and what? Isn't it? I'm going to break up with you anyway." Alger Haydn clenched his fists silently, and the temperature around him seemed to drop directly below freezing. He didn't speak, as if he was suppressing something, staring at me deadly. The way he looks now, he really looks like the future Alger Haydn, who imprisoned me in the basement and gritted his teeth saying that he was going to torture me for the rest of my life. My body began to tremble uncontrollably. I was really afraid that I would end up with Alger Haydn ruining my family, and being tortured by him every day. I hurriedly called someone to kick him out. He stood in front of my house, staring in the direction of my room, and left after a long time. I sat down on the bed and thought about why Alger Haydn refused to break up with me. That's when I remembered that Prima Houseman's store was about to close and needed a lot of money to make a turnaround. So, Alger Haydn must have wanted to make money out of me to help Prima Houseman. So he didn't want to break up with me. That's right, it must be so. With a wave of my hand, I transferred a large sum of money to Prima Houseman, and sent her a message. "I have broken up with Alger Haydn. It was not right for me to use him to stimulate you before, and the 500,000 should be compensated for your mental damages." I thought about it and was going to assist both of them in a wave, as long as Alger Haydn was with Prima Houseman before the male protagonist appeared. Then he would definitely not hate me so much. I edited a message again and sent it out. "The person Alger Haydn likes, in fact, has always been you. I won't bother you anymore." I thought about it for a moment, and then added, "I'm already in love with other boys, so you don't have to worry about me going back on my word to you. I sincerely hope that you and Alger Haydn will eventually get married? Okay, done. I exhaled sharply. Now, my crisis should be completely resolved. Brother Alger Haydn. I'll just say Rebecca Burns. She's a woman. As soon as Prima Houseman received the news, she ran to Alger Haydn's house to look for him. Look, you've only been together for a long time, and she says she's in love with someone else. She pulled out her phone and handed it to him. Alger Haydn took the phone from her hand. The first thing that caught his eye was this sentence: I'm already in love with other boys, so you don't have to worry about me going back on my word of absence. I sincerely hope that you and Alger Haydn will be married. His attention was all on the beginning. Rebecca Burns says she's already taken a liking to other boys. The hand holding the phone tightened unconsciously and forcefully, and the fingertips were tense and white. Alger Haydn felt the veins in his forehead throb. So, this is the real reason why she broke up with him. What kissing skills are poor. What is tired are all lies. These are just excuses for her empathy and love to cheat on another person. Brother Alger Haydn, stop obsessively liking this mean woman, and look at the people around you, such as, like me. That's enough. Prima Houseman, the reason why I have been helping you is only for the sake of saving me when you were a child, and don't let me hear the slanderous words of Rebecca Burns from your mouth again. You, Prima Houseman, feeling that her well-intentioned admonition was being treated like a donkey's liver and lungs, angrily snatched the phone back from Alger Haydn's hand. Tunnel, then you can continue to like her. She's already in love with someone else anyway, and it's impossible for both of you. You just wait and regret it. With that, Prima Houseman ran back to the house in a rage. Alger Haydn watched in silence at her departing back. It can't be, can it? Even if it's impossible, he's going to make the impossible possible. It's something he's decided to like Rebecca Burns from the very beginning. She was the one who came to provoke him. Alger Haydn lowered his eyes, hiding the inky in madness that was about to overflow. The next time Alger Haydn and Prima Houseman were met was in the school cafeteria. To add credibility to those words I had previously sent to Prima Houseman, I hired a boy named Tyler Price at school to pretend to be my boyfriend for a while. Alger Haydn stood next to me while he was cooking. I could feel his gaze always falling on me, every now and then, but I ignored him, and after finishing my meal, I took my plate and went to Tyler Price's place. What I didn't expect was that Alger Haydn came along. He put down his plate and sat down across from me. I looked at him with displeasure and said, "What are you doing here?" Alger Haydn replied with a blank face, "What? Can't I come here?" "I can't." I cut the railroad to the point. "If I'm not mistaken, the cafeteria doesn't seem to be owned by your family." You, enraged by Alger Haydn's words, I stood up and picked up my plate and wanted to leave. "Let's go somewhere else for dinner," I said to Tyler Price. Tyler Price said, "But it seems like there's no other place now." I looked around and saw that, as Tyler Price had said, it was so crowded that I couldn't find a single empty seat at a glance. In the end, I had to hold my breath and sit down again. I glared at Alger Haydn with angry eyes, but he ignored it and even ate leisurely. Oh, since he insists on sitting across from me, then don't blame me for being rude. I cut a steak with a knife and put it on Tyler Price's plate, then smiled and said to him, "Here, this steak is so delicious. You can try it." Alger Haydn slammed into eating. Seeing this, I continued my efforts and put several more pieces on the Tyler Price plate. When he got to the back, Tyler Price waved his hand again and again. "No, no, you give it to me again. You don't have to eat it yourself." "Now," I smiled and said, "Oh, you don't have to worry about me. If you like someone, you just want to give him all the delicious food. And this dish is delicious. Come, open your mouth. I'll feed you." While feeding Tyler Price, I stole a sneak peek at Alger Haydn out of my spare eye. He hadn't eaten a bite of food since I served Tyler Price. At this moment, he was clutching his chopsticks, and his face was as black as the bottom of a pot. I sneered inwardly. HMPH. Let you go against me. See if I don't show affection and disgust you. Tyler Price also wanted to feed me with vegetables. "I think it's pretty good. You can taste it." Alger Haydn interrupted him at this point. "She can't eat spicy." Hearing this, Tyler Price withdrew his hand a little embarrassed. The next second, he picked up another drink beside him and handed it to me. "This is a chilled Coke. It's very icy and relieving the heat." so I'll give you a drink. Alger Haydn spoke again. She can't drink ice during her menstrual period today. Are you trying to harm her by giving her this drink? Tyler Price looked at me and asked me with his eyes. Is it true? I nodded, a little embarrassed. Damn, how can Alger Haydn remember it so clearly? Tyler Price scratched his head. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I didn't know it was your today. Alger Haydn interrupted him with a sneer. I don't know anything. How you got her boyfriend? Hearing his words, I frowned and scolded him. Alger Haydn, are you sick in the head? If you have a brain disease, go to the hospital for treatment. And I tell you, we have broken up, and you have nothing to do with me at all. Alger Haydn was blinded by my scolding. He looked at me in disbelief. You were for him scold me. I've never said a word to him before, so it's no surprise that he's so surprised. But before it was before, and now it is now, I replied. Yes, what's wrong with scolding you? Who made you meddle in your own affairs, and take the initiative to make cheap mistakes to find scolding? Next, I said a lot of accusing him. Alger Haydn's head lowered and lowered amid my accusations. Finally, I picked up my plate, and stood up and said to Tyler Price, I'm going first. Someone has lost my appetite. With that, I lifted my leg and left my seat. As I passed by Alger Haydn, I subconsciously glanced at him, with my peripheral vision. But this glance made my eyes widen uncontrollably. Alger Haydn bit his lower lip lightly, and a crystal tear was slowly falling from the tail of his slightly reddened eyes. Until I walked out of the cafeteria, I was still immersed in shock, and I couldn't come back to my senses for a long time. Alger Haydn has just crying. Inside the cafeteria, Prima Houseman smiled happily after witnessing what had just happened. Alger Haydn and Rebecca Burns' broken relationship is what she wants to see the most. Because she is a raider, she came to this world to break up the CP of Alger Haydn and Rebecca Burns. When she read the novel, she hated Rebecca Burns very much. She didn't think Rebecca Burns was worthy of the perfect Alger Haydn in her eyes. It just so happened that an accident made her dress as the heroine of the book, Prima Houseman, and bound her to a system. What's more coincidental, is that the task released by the system is to ask her to attack Alger Haydn, so that Alger Haydn, a well-known affectionate male partner in the fiction industry, cheats on him and falls in love with him. Before she wore the book, she wished that the author would write about a car accident that killed Rebecca Burns, and then went in and fell in love with Alger Haydn herself. All of this is exactly what she wants. Prima Houseman communicated with the system in his mind. System, thanks to your help, Rebecca Burns and Alger Haydn's brother should have broken up completely now. Some time ago, the system helped her implant a false memory in Rebecca Burns' mind. That memory tells Rebecca Burns that the person Alger Haydn really likes is her Prima Houseman, and that Alger Haydn will buy Rebecca Burns for her in the future to death. But in fact, the plot of the original book is not like this. In the original book, Alger Haydn and Prima Houseman are just good friends, who grew up together. The person he liked was Rebecca Burns throughout. Eventually, he and Rebecca Burns will happily ever after. The cold mechanical voice of the system sounded at this time. This is the last time I will help you. If you still don't succeed in the end, you will be kicked out of this world by me. Prima Houseman replied confidently with a confident face. Don't worry, system, I will definitely succeed. I'm so much better than Rebecca Burns, and Alger Haydn knows what to do with his eyes. However, in view of his previous attitude towards me, when he comes to chase me in the future, I have to snub him for a while. I want him to know what it means to abuse his wife for a while. Chasing his wife in the crematorium. At night, I lay in bed and couldn't sleep. Alger Haydn's tearful face kept replaying in his head, and strange feelings came from his heart uncontrollably. He cried. Why are you crying? I've already transferred money to Prima Houseman, so why does he still want to come to me? It's hard to. Is that memory fake? The person he likes is actually me. My mood jumped a little at this guess. The next second, though, I shook my head. No, he won't like me. Torn between whether Alger Haydn liked me or not, I fell into a deep sleep. After that day, I hadn't seen Alger Haydn again for a long time. Since I no longer needed a fake boyfriend to act with me, in front of Alger Haydn and Prima Houseman, I fired Tyler Price after settling my pay. But after that, Tyler Price still sent me some warm messages every day. and seemed to really regard himself as my real boyfriend. Later, I thought he was too annoying, so I directly blocked him. I thought this was the end of the matter, but what I didn't expect was that soon after that, in class, eating, or walking on the road, there were always some boys who turned around and laughed, and whispered after seeing me. I didn't know what it was until my roommate shared a post with me. The poster is Tyler Price. The title of the post is, "Pure Flowers Are a Female Dog of Mine Who Comes and Goes in Private." In this post, Tyler Price made up all sorts of incidents to prove how much I liked him, and how I was in front of him, and how dismissive he was of me. The replies below the post touted him. "Awesome, buddy. The flowers have made you trained to be a, and I'll post another day to teach my brothers the experience. TSK. I didn't expect Rebecca Burns to look like a good girl." In private, someone below replied to him, "This kind of woman is sassy." This post was posted on a game post bar at school. This post bar is full of boys, and girls generally don't play. If it wasn't for my roommate's boyfriend, who happened to brush it up, and shared it with me through my roommate, I'll probably never know about it. Looking at the screen full of rumors about me on my phone, I was trembling with anger and was about to go to Tyler Price to ask for an explanation. What I didn't expect was that on the way to find Tyler Price, I happened to bump into the scene of him being beaten, and the one who beat him, it turned out to be Alger Haydn. At this moment, Alger Haydn pressed Tyler Price to the ground, and raised his hand to slam punch after punch into his face. I've never seen Alger Haydn so emotional. In my impression, his expression was always faint, and only occasionally when I teased him fiercely would there be a slight annoyance on his face. And now, his cheeks and neck were dyed bright red with extreme rage, and his expression was fierce to the point of what could be called hideous. It occurred to me that my roommate's boyfriend was Alger Haydn's. I think he should have seen Tyler Price's post at the same time as me. So, is he standing up for me now? Maybe it's because I saw Tyler Price being beaten too badly by Alger Haydn. A few people who were not afraid of anything went up to stop Alger Haydn, but it didn't stop. Looking at Tyler Price's dying appearance, I was shocked. If something happens to Tyler Price, then Alger Haydn won't end much better. Thinking of this, I hurriedly stepped forward and shouted, "Alger Haydn, stop fighting!" And Alger Haydn, who had just been unable to pull out several people, stopped his movements in an instant. He turned his head to look at me, his eyes a little dazed. Taking advantage of this, I ran to his side as fast as I could, grabbed his hand, and led him away from where he was now. I didn't stop until I was in a secluded and unoccupied location. In the meantime, Alger Haydn obediently followed me without saying a word. I let go of his hand, and turned to look at him. Only then did I find out that he was also injured. He had a noticeable bruise on his right cheekbone, and the corner of his mouth was broken. I subconsciously frowned, but what I didn't expect was that he thought it was me who wanted to berate Tyler Price for being angry with him. Alger Haydn stared at me with his inky eyes, raising his legs and closing in on me. I was forced to back away until my back touched the rough wall. I looked at him puzzled, and my brow couldn't help but furrow even deeper. Alger Haydn chuckled and said, "Are you looking at me with this expression as you did last time? Scolding me for being cheap and nosy?" I didn't. Before I could finish speaking, Alger Haydn interrupted me. At this moment, his emotions are still very excited. He took a deep breath and said, "Yes, I'm just a slut. I'm just nosy. I just can't stand it when he posts like that. So many people are pointing at you. Rebecca Burns, you broke up with me for such a disgusting person. You tell me, what the hell is I like to be compared to him? You say." Alger Haydn cried again. His eyes were red, tears were rolling in his sockets, and he looked like a puppy who had been bullied. I looked at him blankly, and I felt very ashamed that he looked so good now. So I didn't even hear what he had just said. It really confirms that sentence. Men's tears, women's stimulants. Seeing that I didn't answer, Alger Haydn's tears flowed even harder. He reached out against the wall behind me, imprisoning me in a strong manner. Obviously, you were the one who took the initiative to provoke me first. But why? Why was it me who couldn't let go in the end? Alger Haydn's eyes were filled with pain and brokenness. The next second, he lowered his head and approached me. The breaths mingled, and he felt like he wanted to kiss me. But just as the lips of the two of us were about to touch, he suddenly turned his head away, and said to me in a low voice, "I'm sorry. This is the last time. I won't bother you again." As soon as the words fell, he turned around and left without looking back. I stood there in a daze, screaming inwardly. What did Alger Haydn just say? He said he couldn't let me go, still crying. And he used to be a good boy, a good student, and never quarreled with people. But this time, in order to stand up for me, he also fought with others. He likes me, and he definitely likes me. If that's not like, then what is? That memory that popped up must have been fake, and the person Alger Haydn liked wasn't Prima Houseman at all, but me, Rebecca Burns. My heart fluttered. I reported Tyler Price's post to the school about spreading rumors about me. I didn't let go of those who insulted me under his posts. In the end, they all got the punishment they deserved. I was going to take care of this and then go to Alger Haydn, and explain my relationship with Tyler Price to him in person, and then get back together with him. Unexpectedly, it just happened to hit the holiday. Alger Haydn happened to leave school at this time, and I don't know where he went, and I couldn't find anyone else at all. What makes me even more speechless is that my roommate and her boyfriend have been showing affection in front of me all kinds of times recently, which has caused my whole love addiction to explode. I really want to fall in love, Miss Alger Haydn. I really want to touch his abs and kiss him at the same time. His mouth is really soft and very kissable. I also bought him a uniform. The more I thought about it, the more uncomfortable I felt, because I can't do anything I want to do. I can't do it now. Seeing that I looked depressed and loveless, my roommate dragged me to a newly opened restaurant outside the school to eat and improve my mood. Who would have thought that in this restaurant, I bumped into Alger Haydn, who worked part-time as a waiter. At that time, he was ordering for several customers. One of the girls saw that he was good-looking, so she took out her mobile phone and wanted to add his wishet. Alger Haydn refused. He said, "I'm sorry, I have a girlfriend." But the girl still didn't give up. What's wrong with having a girlfriend? Just add a wishet. It doesn't matter, right? If you promise me, I can consider ordering more dishes. Alger Haydn shook his head. "I'm sorry." The girl pursed her lips with a look of displeasure. "Don't even let you add wishet. Your girlfriend must be too cautious." Alger Haydn frowned, just about to speak. That's when I stepped forward and said, "Yes, that's how careful I am." I stood in front of Alger Haydn and said to the girl, "I just don't like my boyfriend adding someone else's wishet." "How? Do you have a lot of opinions?" The look on the girl's face suddenly became extremely embarrassed. "Or, let's change places and eat." The girl's friend couldn't stand it anymore, so she quickly pulled her up and ran. I took Alger Haydn by the hand and led him to a quiet and secluded place. He hung his head so that I couldn't see the look on his face. After a while, he hesitated and said, "What did you mean? What does that mean? Did he mean that I called him boyfriend?" Since he asked like this, then I'll get straight to the point and tell him directly. "Alger Haydn, let's get back together." Alger Haydn looked up at me in disbelief. A hint of surprise rose from his eyes. Soon, however, the surprise dissipated. Alger Haydn laughed at himself and said, "Rebecca Burns, are you playing with me? I didn't. First I found a random reason to break up with me. Then I fell in love with another man seamlessly. And now I came back to me and said that I was getting back together. Isn't this playing with me? Do you think I'm really easy to deceive?" Looking at his sad eyes, I panicked for a moment. "I'm sorry." I was about to explain to him, but he suddenly interrupted me and said, "I agreed." "What?" My eyes widened in surprise. Alger Haydn lowered his head and rested his forehead on my shoulder. His muffled voice came from my ears. "I said I agreed to your request, Rebecca Burns. We compound. Even if you're really playing with me this time, then I'll admit it." The next second, he put his arms around my waist and hugged me into his arms. "But I want to tell you in advance, since you took the initiative to come to me, then this time I will never let you dump me as easily as before." I raised my hand and put it on his back and said, "Please, you must be like a big python that haunts me to death, and don't let me go." Alger Haydn was amused by me. I withdrew from his embrace, looked him in the eye, and said to him earnestly, "I'm sorry, but I didn't have a relationship with Tyler Price before. He was hired by me to pretend to be my boyfriend, just to make you think I didn't like you anymore. As for the reason for this, It's ridiculous. I don't know why I suddenly have a memory in my head. This memory tells me that the person you like is Prima Houseman, that I am the vicious woman who broke you and her apart, and that you will do something particularly bad to me for Prima Houseman in the future. You and Prima Houseman grew up together, and when we were in a relationship, I always felt that you were cold to me, and I thought you really liked her. Out of fear, I broke up with you, and now that I think about it, I'm really stupid. As I spoke, my head drooped. Alger Haydn pinched my face and comforted me. My fault is that I didn't give you enough security. Growing up, I wasn't a very expressive person, so that's why I misunderstood. But what I want to tell you is that I really like you. I like it. I love it. In the future, I will try to express my love for you to you as much as I do now. Alger Haydn, can you express it now? What do you want me to say? I tapped my finger to my lips. With a red face, he said with some timidity, can you kiss me? Didn't you dislike my poor kissing skills before? You know, I'm pretending. Alger Haydn smiled, put one hand around my waist, and then bowed his head and kissed it deeply. I felt like a firework exploded in my head. Woo woo, he's really good at kissing now, and it's really super cool to kiss with someone he likes. At the end of the lingering kiss, Alger Haydn suddenly pulled out a necklace and put it on me. I touched my neck in some surprise. I found a picture of this necklace on the internet and thought it looked good, so I casually forwarded it to Alger Haydn, but I didn't expect him to buy it for me. I think it was quite expensive. A gift for you. Do you like it? I like it. I love it. I nodded as if my chick pecked rice, and then grabbed Alger Haydn's waist and pressed his face to his chest. I said in a somewhat distressed tone, you used to work part-time day and night. It can't just buy me this to make money, right? Now I'm still running to the restaurant to work as a waiter, so I'm definitely tired. Alger Haydn and I are quite different from each other, but during our relationship, he never spent a penny on me, and even bothered to prepare some little surprises for me. Alger Haydn rubbed my head and said, you're happy, it's worth it no matter how tired you are. Alger Haydn, are you in love? Alger Haydn chuckled, I'm in love with Rebecca Burns' brain. Alger Haydn and I are officially back together, but Prima Houseman seems particularly unhappy with this. On the first day of class after the break, I saw Alger Haydn and I holding hands and going to class together. She had a look of disbelief on her face, followed by an expression that was so angry that she was about to crush her teeth. And then when I was separated from Alger Haydn, she always deliberately came to Alger Haydn's side and took some pictures and videos that looked a little warm and sent them to me, hoping to create a conflict between me and Alger Haydn, but I didn't pay any attention to it. Later, I thought she was too annoying, so I blocked her directly. Who would have thought about it? But she broke the defense directly and found me in person, by the school's artificial lake. Prima Houseman confronted me with a hostile look. As soon as she opened her mouth, she scolded, Rebecca Burns, you're disgusting. You know that the person Alger Haydn really likes is me, but you still deliberately use means to break us apart. I scoffed and said, how do you know that Alger Haydn really likes you? Without hesitation, Prima Houseman replied, of course brother Alger Haydn told me personally. If you know each other, you should break up with him quickly. I laughed. Where did he tell you personally? In a dream. Why are you dreaming in broad daylight? You're dreaming, Rebecca Burns. You slut. Why didn't you die sooner? Why do you still want to pester my brother Alger Haydn without giving up? A man like you doesn't deserve him. If it weren't for you, I would have been the person I'm with brother Alger Haydn today. Slut, I'm going to have to teach you a good lesson today. Prima Houseman snarled and rushed forward to slap me, but I reacted faster than her. Before she could hit me, I gave her a big backhand, straight backhand. Prima Houseman was directly slapped by me. I looked at her and sneered. This is what happens when you go crazy in front of me. Prima Houseman, I can't bear you again and again. If you dare to bother me, next time it will be more than just a slap. Prima Houseman looked at me with hateful eyes. Footsteps could be heard not far away. I looked back and it was Alger Haydn. Seeing that it was him coming, Prima Houseman hurriedly covered her face and pretended to be pitiful. Her eyes immediately filled with tears. Brother Alger Haydn, Rebecca Burns, she hit me. You must be the master of me. Alger Haydn was annoyed with Prima Houseman. He didn't even want to give her a look now. He rubbed my reddened palms in distress and said, Ignore her. Let's go. I nodded and turned away with him. Seeing that Alger Haydn ignored her, Prima Houseman's face turned red with anger. She screamed in disarray, "Brother Alger Haydn!" Hearing this, Alger Haydn and I picked up the pace. Before I could take a few steps, Alger Haydn suddenly grabbed my arm and pulled me into his arms. "Be careful, Rebecca Burns. You die." Behind us, Prima Houseman rushed straight at us. She tried to push me into the water, but she didn't stop and planted herself in the lake. After this overboard, Prima Houseman's temperament suddenly changed. Never bothered me and Alger Haydn again. Alger Haydn and I were both relieved by that. A few years later, I learned that the memory that had appeared in my mind for some reason was not entirely fake. Alger Haydn is really the youngest son of the head of the Ben family, who was lost in his early years. Before he officially returned to Ben's house, I asked him with some concern, "Alger Haydn, you didn't have a baby kiss when you were a kid." "Indeed. Heh. What if your family asks you to break up with me after you go back because of this incident?" "No, it won't." Looking at his confident appearance, I frowned. "How do you know it won't?" "Because the person who married me is you, and our mothers are college classmates. And when we were just born, they did verbally bet on us to have baby kisses." I smiled and threw myself into Alger Haydn's arms. "Shay, why are we so destined?" Alger Haydn smiled and put his arm around my waist. "Maybe it's because we're a natural pair." The end.